recording of it for my YTTs. Okay, so welcome. I'm Catherine. I'll guide you through yin practice today. And I've got a couple of new people in the studio, so I want to even just start up saying yin is different than when you come to an active class. It's very quiet, it's very stilling, which is super hard for most people the first couple of times they do it. And that's okay. So I just want you to recognize that it's okay. The other thing is that we often, as a culture or as a society, we want to look just like the teacher. You know, let me mimic you, and that imitation is how we grow in our own stability. And yin is very different. It's not about how the shape looks, but rather how it feels in your body, which is different. And sometimes people are like, I don't know how that feels. And I'll give you some points of reference on where I think I want you to feel it, where my intention is, but know that those are points of reference. They're not exact sciences. So just with that being said, traditionally, there's no props in yin, but realistically, our bodies do not always open up flat to the ground. It just doesn't happen. So think about your props as tools for lifting the floor up to you, rather than you striving to reach to touch the floor. It's there to support you. Okay? Perfect. And then I'll be reading today from the language of yin, the Muladara Chakra. So in whatever comfortable seat works for you, begin there. And take a moment and just focus on the lower part of the body. Focus on the parts of the body that touch the ground. Maybe you close your eyes and you can sense that texture of your blanket if you're sitting on a blanket, or the texture of your mat or your pants. And just notice, see what arises. This root chakra, this swirling energy, starts at the base of the spine. It's low to the ground. You might even notice this weight and density of your bones. The heaviness, almost as if it's sinking into the support of the ground. Shift your awareness to the toes and the feet, and just notice how they feel. We want some ease in the pose, so if you need to shift a little bit, readjust, you're welcome to do that. And then notice the way the toes connect to the feet, and the feet connect to the ankle connects to the shin bone and the knee, all the way up the femur into the pelvis, into that root of stability. From that root of stability, from that grounding sensation, start to connect to the breath. Throughout practice, I invite you to focus in on the exhaling breath. That's the yin side of our breath. That's the balance to the active yang. Whenever the mind starts to wander, just come back to that feeling, that softening or surrendering as you let the breath go. That's a space there that can strengthen us, that can support us. We'll follow 5 more rounds of breath. knowing that there's no rush. Everybody breathes at a different rate, at a different pace, with a different awareness. So as your fifth exhale is release, it escapes from the body. We'll make our way into child's pose. In your child's pose, again, that idea that it wants to feel comfortable for you, that might be knees apart, that might be knees together. It might be arms long in front or elbows bent with a little pillow for the head. It might even be arms wrapped around behind the body. So in our yin practice, the first thing we do is we come into this just right shape. My teacher, Bernie Clark, talks about it as the Goldilocks theory. You know, Goldilocks went to the pot of porridge and said, oh, this is too hot. And then went to the next pot of porridge and said, oh, this is too cold. And then that third shift, that third try at a pot of porridge, that was just right. So we search out the edge, the shape for us, not too difficult, not too easy, just right. And we resolve in that just right shape for us to find stillness. Sometimes I like to soften the muscles, maybe here soften through the hips, let the bums spread. Perfect. It's definitely a practice of holding still. There's always this exception. If at any time you feel pain, numbness, tension, you come out. No big deal. Excellent. And in this space of stillness, we choose to linger, to be still, to stay and let time wash over us. There is nothing more important in this moment than you being here right now. In that time passing, that magic happens. You might notice the inner groin softening, spreading. You might feel the shoulders just relax a bit. You might notice stories that cross the mind. In this place of stillness, we'll follow 5 more rounds. Letting every breath be a love note to you. Every breath feels as if you are being loved and cared for. And you rest in the knowledge that your needs are met. And then as your fifth breath leaves the body. Maybe you stretch the hands forward, feel the palms against the earth, start to activate the body, activate the muscles, and move very slowly so as not to shock the system. We'll grip the mat with the fingertips, we'll press into the shins and start to lift into tabletop pose. Sometimes there's this total desire to be still in tabletop. You're welcome to stay there. Oftentimes, for first-time experiencers, at the end, there's this desire to move and to sway. That might look like a conventional cat and cow. It might look like a side-to-side sway of the tailbone. I invite you to close your eyes and just move the way your body desires. Letting go of any idea of what you think it should look like or feel like. But take this space in class to just begin to understand yourself. And then make your way into that tabletop pose. We're going to flex the feet and attempt. It might be easy for you. For me, it's always like, maybe, maybe not. Attempt to put the toe prints to the earth. This next pose is called toe perch. Oftentimes in our young classes, we call it broken toe pose. So from a friend here with broken toe, don't do it on that foot. Okay. Let's take the hands back toward the knees, and it might just be one handprint, and you see what that feels like, the pressure on the toes. Maybe you sink the hips toward the heels. We're looking for just a little bit of sensation, and that's going to feel different for each person. You might come back into tabletop and be like, that's all I've got. That's beautiful. You might take hands away and be like, that's where I'm at. And that's beautiful. And then coming into this little quote from Gabrielle Harris, she says, abundance in yin is the recognition that we already have enough. To cultivate the feeling of abundance in our life, we remember we are enough as we are. We have enough material possessions. Our relationships are enough. Our job is enough. We have done enough. We are good enough. We are beautiful enough. We know enough. And we are precisely where we are meant to be. So relax here. Put down the internal pressure that you place on yourself. Put down the need to improve what is already beautiful. You're still with me in that toe perch. Let the hands take most of the weight of the body as you walk forward, returning to tabletop. Let's flip the tops of the feet to the ground and then give yourself a little applause there. Just tap the tops of the feet down. You are enough. And then once more, we're going to tuck the toes just to support us. I'm going to bring my blocks with me. You are welcome to or not. I'm going to shift all my weight to my feet, lift the knees, and come into a forward fold. In our yin class, we call it dangling. I like having blocks underneath the body just to kind of give me some support, but they're not necessary. Some people like to grab the elbows. Some people like to just feel that stretch in the hamstring. You're welcome to bend the knees. You're welcome to keep the legs straight. Your choice. Perfect. You're gonna hear me walking around. I'm just gonna take a moment and lock the front door. Take these moments in your mind just to reaffirm you are enough. You do enough. You have enough. Where in the shape can you soften? Is there a vertebra along the spine that you could release a bit? Is there a thought or a story in your mind, in your heart that you hold on to? Could you just for the time that we have together, let that go? We'll find 5 more breaths, following the breath as it moves along the spine. Again, letting every breath be a little love note, a reminder. You are where you're supposed to be. As you're ready to move and shift again, we're going to make our way into Muladara or squat pose. Again, I'm going to take my blocks as I sink my hips down and just stack them and give my bum a place to land. Sometimes blocks feel good, sometimes they're not enough, sometimes they're too much. Let go of the idea that toes have to be out or knees have to be out. Rather, I want you to feel the pelvis connecting, rooting, finding that stability. Feel like the tailbone be heavy. Oftentimes, the hardest part of yin is staying in the present moment. If the mind keeps jumping from to-do lists to pedicure need to pick up kid to whatever is on your agenda, can you draw it back into this idea, this concept of what gives me stability? What helps to remain grounded? Maybe the mind with that focus starts to create a list. What gives me stability? What helps to ground me? Your list might be an item of 1 or an item of 20. Just recognize it. Don't add to it. Don't tell a story or judge it. Just recognize it as a way to keep you connected. When the Muladara Chakra is in balance, we feel grounded, comfortable, and safe in our bodies, safe in our community, safe in the world. We know and we feel we have enough. We are enough. I'll follow 5 final rounds of breath as it flows through the body. Then as your 5th breath leaves the body, you're just going to take the hands down to the ground, shift the body forward, press into the feet, straighten the legs, sending hips toward the sky. Just a breath or 2 in that dangling pose. Maybe there's a sway, sending hips side to side, a little bit of movement. You can always keep knees bent. You can always place hands on a block or 2 blocks, edge of a chair if you're at home. Maybe there's a nodding of the head from swaying side to side. If you had that blocked underneath your bum, now's a good time to move it. We're going to make our way into butterfly pose, lowering knees down to the ground, lowering bum to the ground. Butterfly pose, soles to the feet start together. Some people really enjoy a block under one leg or both legs. Just that idea of bringing the earth up to your knees. We don't want them to dangle. Some people like a blanket under the bum. You're welcome to take that. And I'm kind of shifting. I'm kind of like rolling, essentially moving the flesh of my bum away from me. Feeling the sitting bones connected to the earth. And then from that space, hinge forward. Your fold can be as deep or as shallow as suits you. Perfect. You're welcome to move, make adjustments, shift until you find that just right pose. And then you choose to be still You choose to love yourself in this moment, in this variation. Coming into the philosophy behind the Muladara, this dynamic root system defines our sense of self. Psychological foundation of the first chakra is built from our relationship with our primary caregivers. When it's balanced, we feel grounded, we feel safe, secure. When it's in excess, we may hoard food, materials. We might lash out in anger and fear. When the chakra is out of balance, you may encounter feelings of insecurity or instability. You may feel that you no longer belong in your body or on this earth. You may experience eating difficulties, anxiousness, restlessness, fear. It might manifest as an imbalanced relationship with money. Know that those are all normal feelings, normal reactions. And what we're doing here in class is bringing us into that sense of balance, that reminder that you are enough, that you have enough. You are smart enough. You are beautiful, just as you are. For these next 5 rounds of breath, I implore you, I encourage you, I invite you. Feel that you are enough. Take these breaths to see yourself as I see you. To know that you are loved. And then as the 5th breath is released from the body, hands come to the earth. We hold on for support as we lift the torso. We're going to pause there at the top for a moment. Just notice how it feels to be upright. Give the blood that rushed to the head time to shift back down into the base of the body. And then there's this invitation here to squeeze the sit bones together and the tailbone to the pubic bone. So we're drawing everything in at the base of our spine. That containment is the Mula Bandha. Mula means base. Bandha is that lock. We're locking the energy in. We're locking in that memory that you are enough. And then let it go and just notice the difference. If you've got props under the legs, slide them out. Take your hands behind the body, lifting one knee to the sky and then the other. Step the feet a little bit away from you. Maybe even separate the feet. And just let the knees sway side to side. Be aware of the sensations that you feel along the legs, along the base of your spine. There might be a surge of fluid or energy. Explore what it feels like to keep the feet rooted to the ground, just this little rocking along the soles of the feet. Maybe you explore what it feels like to float the feet and just let the heels roll side to side. Maybe you play around with taking the toes to the ground, seeing if you can float the heels and roll side to side. And eventually we come back into stillness. We'll make our way into dragonfly pose. It's our version of a wide straddle. Legs will go nice and wide, whatever that looks like for you. Legs are straight, whatever that looks like for you. And we start to hinge forward again. Yes, you can rotate on the mat, of course. Sometimes that foot feels funny on the floor. Rotate. I always like to slide a block underneath my forearm, lifting the earth up. And as we land here in our dragonfly, looking, searching for that just right shape, invite yourself to sit evenly, left and right bum cheek. And then think about the tailbone itself starting to descend back and down. Searching out the earth, the support. Abundance in yin is the recognition that we already have enough. To cultivate the feeling of abundance in our life, we remember we are enough as we are. There is nothing that we need to add or delete or shift. Tears that everything feels like just start to trace those 5 inward breaths, perhaps letting the awareness shift to those exhales. Knowing as your 5th breath finishes, hands come to the support of the earth as we start to press up, lifting through the torso. Maybe pausing for a moment. If you've rotated, we're going to come draw our legs back long on the mats and then make our way into a little mini Shavasana. Lying down on the back, taking this time to just notice the sensations, to feel the effects of the shape in your body. Do you feel that gentle tug, or maybe not so gentle, underneath the knee? Do you feel the stretch along the hips, the tops of the hamstrings? Maybe you notice it in the low back. Maybe the shoulders feel supported by the ground. I call this space the rebound. Oftentimes, I think of it as the most personal conversation that you can have with yourself. The one where there's no judgment, there's no frustration. It's that time to listen to the physical, to come back into the mental, maybe even check in with the emotional. As the sensations within the body subside, your body's no longer having that conversation with you anymore. They've shared all that it's ready to share in that moment. Perhaps you start to gather the knees in toward the chest. And then ask yourself, what do you need here? Is it a side to side, little rocking? Maybe it's a circling through the hips or the ankles. Again, there's just this space to know that from that enough that you are, you know what the body needs. Sometimes we just need space to practice tapping into that need to feel it in our own body. When you feel complete with that movement, we'll come into stirrups, which is often heard as happy baby. So take the knees wider than the rib cage, feet up to the sky. Maybe you hold on to the backs of the thighs. Maybe you will hold on to the feet. And then I invite you to just find a little sway. Maybe it's a rocking along the back. Maybe it's a bending of one leg, straightening of the other, alternating. And then eventually come into that stillness. The arms are active here, but try to soften the legs and the knees as much as you can. Gather up the strength and the support from the spine along the ground. That support, that stability, let it nurture you. We'll take a few more breaths in that happy baby, that saddle shape. And then release the feet to the ground, knees to the sky. Take the arms overhead toward that front door. Find a little stretch through the body. Some very easy, simple flowing bridges, nothing too active. Just curl the tailbone up toward the knees, maybe lift the hips and then lower back down. It's almost more of a pelvic tilt. A teeny tiny lift. Maybe there's two more. When the hips come back down to the ground, take the arms out wide and let the knees just cascade to your right. Pause there. If the knees don't touch, you can always bring a block in between the legs, lifting up the legs to one another. Sometimes that block feels better underneath the bottom leg, in between the leg and the floor. Find the stillness of the shape, the stillness of the twist. Choosing again to just linger here. Following those 5 final rounds of breath. Watching with this sense of curiosity, the way the breath swirls around the curves of your body. Then as that 5th breath leaves the body, remove any props if they're supporting you. Let the knees float up to the sky. Take the arms in line with the ears once more. Stretch them back toward the door. Then open the arms, knees cascade to the opposite side. Again, adding any props that help lift the body to you, lift the floor to you. We choose. We resolve to find stillness. We resolve to let time just wash over us. Recognizing whatever arises and just letting it go. Following those 5 final rounds of breath. As you're ready, knees float to the sky, arms stretch back. Maybe you find a full body stretch here with the legs reaching in the opposite direction of the hands and arms. And then this invitation to settle into Shavasana, or to take a little bit of movement before you settle in. Knowing that both are perfect options. It might even give you a little bit of space to just realize Shavasana, that final resting pose, does not always have to be on our backs. It could be on our side, it could be on our belly, it could even be seated in a meditative state. And as we settle into the stillness, the quiet of this final resting pose, we return again to this idea, this reminder. We have done enough. We are good enough. We are beautiful enough. We are smart enough. And in that knowledge, we rest in the idea that we are precisely where we are meant to be. So relax here. Put down the internal pressure that you place on yourself. Put down the need to improve what is already beautiful. Gently guide mind, the thoughts, that awareness of the breath that flows within you. Noticing each inhaling breath. Noticing the spaciousness created and then inviting that breath to expand. Maybe side to side, maybe top to bottom. And from that expansion, bringing a little bit of movement, wiggling the fingers to toes. We're all in a unique position. So when you're ready, and not a moment sooner, we'll make our way to a comfortable seated shape. Just move mindfully and slowly. You arrive before anyone else, settle the tailbone in. Connect again to that energy of the earth. Inviting a closing with a little mudra of our fingers. Mudra is yoga for your fingertips. So closing off of energy. I'm going to take my ring finger and my thumb and let them touch. I'm going to do that on both hands. Ring finger, thumb, touch. The other the other fingers are just stretched out. Because we work so much on grounding, I'm going to keep my palms down as I rest my hands to my lap, but know that both are acceptable, palms up or palms down. Prithvi Mudra. This one to encourage us to remember that we are safe, we are stable, we are grounded deep within ourselves. Reminder that we are loved. You're welcome to keep the mudra or release it. I'm going to slide my palms together, that closing mudra, that gratefulness gesture from my heart to each of yours. Namaste. Namaste.